This is the Heel to the Face podcast. That's Icebreaker21 on Twitter. That's myself, Jared. Just Jared Wicks on Twitter. And don't forget to follow the program at Heel to the Face on Twitter. That's where you'll get our social media stuff that you need to know, including what we're about to get to right now, and that is our social media Smackdown and Twitter question of the week. So our Twitter question of the week this week revolved around SummerSlam, and WWE has been hyping up SummerSlam as the next big pay-per-view, the biggest party of the summer, but they hype it up like WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the WrestleMania of the summer. I mean, it's all weekend. They got NXT. I'm surprised they don't have Access, but either way, they hype it up as the big deal. But to me, it doesn't feel like the big deal. So I asked the question, what do you think the second biggest pay-per-view of the year is? SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. Those are the other three of the four. And I put other because...
Maybe like a Money in the Bank. Something like that.
Money in the Bank. I mean, the greatest Royal Rumble. And I know some... But I look at it like this. They're still referencing the greatest Royal Rumble. I mean, you can tell to WWE...
Yeah. They loved it.
It was a big deal because they're saying, this is his second win since
back
this.
There, yeah. Back at the greatest Royal Rumble.
Or, remember, he went toe-to-toe with Saudi Arabia or whatever, that. So to them, and I know that people, because greatest Royal Rumble took away so much, they don't want to acknowledge it, but we got to acknowledge it. If that had proper build and was in the States, that would have been a huge pay-per-view. I mean... Those are big matches. I know we don't like the build. We don't like it because Triple H versus John Cena had no build to it. And we don't like it because it happened in Saudi Arabia and not in North America where any of us could attend. And we don't like it, the fact that WrestleMania just happened. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at that card individually or, without any of the builds, without watching wrestling, you'd be like, that looks like it was that bigger than if you were in a coma for a whole year and you just looked at pay-per-view cards, you'd look at 70,000 people, that card, you'd say, wow, was that bigger than WrestleMania? Like, wow, and you say it was on a Friday afternoon, not everyone could watch it. Mm-hmm. That was bigger than WrestleMania just from a card standpoint, and maybe even a presentation. Pyro, stage, they pulled out all the stops for that event. Upcoming is the Super Showdown in Australia.
Yep.
This one is kind of like the greatest Royal Rumble, but they're giving it a little time because we got acknowledgement about 4 months ago that it was going to happen.
Yes.
We're getting some build of that, but you got Triple H and Undertaker.
It's a special time, too. It's a special day and time.
It's going to be on a Saturday, so more people are going to watch it. It's got a few months build. So it'll be
and because
it's not till October and they're starting to build it now.
I was gonna say they're starting to build it now. Triple H cut a nice little promo.
Yeah.
So that was they're definitely planting the seeds for that.
So our vote was pretty clear cut, pretty unanimous. 90% said Royal Rumble, 10% said other, which could be Superstar Showdown, Money in the Bank, Hell in a Cell.
I think it's pretty obvious. Royal
But
Rumble.
0% was SummerSlam. So
interesting.
I personally feel Royal Rumble is the second biggest in my eyes.
Yes, I agree. 110%. I am Royal Rumble all the way. I love Royal Rumble. WrestleMania is number one, but I have a special place for the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble to me is number one.
Well, the reason is because the Royal Rumble isn't just selling the name.
No.
They have the match to go with it.
Yes.
Until the greatest Royal Rumble came around, that was the one time a year. Like SummerSlam is. What's the difference between that and Extreme Rules? Or that and Night of Champions? What's the difference between SummerSlam and Night of Champions? I mean, there's nothing, intrinsically different about it. There's no specific match that only happens at SummerSlam. It's just we put our better matches here. Like, there's still just matches. There's no, like WrestleMania used to have the Money in the Bank ladder match, and it was solely at WrestleMania. Royal Rumble has Royal Rumble, and it's only at Royal Rumble. And, Survivor Series has Survivor Series. SummerSlam is just a bigger card. SummerSlam that's why people think it's the second biggest event, because it doesn't have a gimmick. It's literally just trying to be WrestleMania in the summer.
At this point, I think Survivor Series might, obviously we're not there yet, but I'm going to say Survivor Series might surpass SummerSlam this year in my book. SummerSlam to me, like they had some matches, like yes, they had the star power like Ronda Rousey, Miz, Daniel Bryan. I mean, they had, Brock Lesnar. To me, I felt like, I feel like this almost every big pay-per-view. NXT TakeOver was just the better show of the weekend.
Well, you can feel that way at sometimes even WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Triple H is doing a hell of a job in NXT. Like, there's some guys down there, like I cannot wait for them to get up to the main roster, but I want them to stay in NXT because then they're gonna bury them on the main roster. Like, I have that thing where I'm like if Velveteen Dream comes up. Oh, he'll get a couple little pops and then he just sits in the background. I mean, look at what's happening to. I mean, Finn gets some due, but he always comes up short, unfortunately. He's not getting the push that he deserves. Samoa Joe got a little bit of a push, but a lot of these guys, I just don't want them to my worry is a lot of these big NXT names, like if they called up Adam Cole, what are you doing with them? Yeah, you have to bring up the whole team, right? Undisputed Era, right? You have to bring them up. So my thing is like, where does that go? So for me, I get worried because NXT, WWE, it's all one family, so to speak. But at the same time, I love the NXT product so much right now. Like the shows are great. Every match was fantastic. Like Ricochet and Adam Cole was a great match. Velveteen Dream put on another great match with EC3. Every match was so good. Like they don't have the star power, I would say. They don't have the quote unquote star power maybe as WWE the main roster for SummerSlam, but I think overall it was a better show. I'm honestly going to say Survivor Series might be better this year than SummerSlam. I think SummerSlam was...
If I'm not mistaken, Survivor Series is at Staples Center this year.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think it's in LA.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, here's where SummerSlam maybe next year, if they could pick it up. And this is why, and to me, this is why SummerSlam still, we talked about it in the first segment of the show. You don't give it, you got to give it its own set. Anything you want to stick out differently, I mean, you used to do that just for traditional pay-per-views. But if you're trying to tell me SummerSlam is different than Money in the Bank or Extreme Rules or Backlash or any pay-per-view,
it's not.
You got to do something to do it other than just the matches.
It wasn't.
Those graphics don't do it.
No, to me it was just like a standard pay-per-view. It was just like, okay, Hell in a Cell's next. Okay, we're gonna get the same look, the same. It's gonna look, it's gonna look exactly the same.
At least a couple years ago, Royal Rumble was at the Alamo Dome. I
Yes.
think they failed this year going to Philadelphia and going to another standard arena.
They should go to the Alamo
But
Dome.
next year they're going to be at Chase Field in Arizona,
which is cool.
So it's going to be out. It's not outdoors, but it's going to be a stadium,
which is cool.
So again, that's where Royal Rumble is kind of getting the different treatment. And if you want that, you got to give it to SummerSlam too. Now, there's been rumors that they're trying to do that with SummerSlam, and they haven't made the announcement where SummerSlam is going to be next year. Sasha Banks actually was in an interview and said they were talking about this being the last year Brooklyn, just because the fact WrestleMania is going to be in Brooklyn, and with obviously WrestleMania comes Raw and SmackDown, and well, that's just too much. I mean, even from WWE, they're saying, yeah, we can't have like the Barclays Center hold 9 events in 1 year. So next year SummerSlam won't be in Brooklyn; it'll be somewhere else because.
Where would you like to see SummerSlam next year?
Well,
where would
Sasha
you
Banks said they're going back to LA, and if they go back to LA, here's the caveat they have to do. Is they'd have to go to a stadium. They have to go to like Dodger Stadium or something like that.
You know what they should do? They should honestly do it at like if they're trying to make this a big deal, maybe you do it in Seattle, like Safeco. Well, that would be cool.
There's rumors next week they could be announcing where SummerSlam is next year, because normally they do. That's the thing. We've been watching these big pay-per-views for some reason. Mm-hmm. I think like 2 years ago, I remember watching Survivor Series, and they revealed where Survivor Series was going to be the next year. Like, I know you're a big Survivor Series guy, but to me, Survivor Series doesn't stick out too much. So it's just kind of funny when they're trying to give Survivor Series like a WrestleMania treatment. When they're like, next year, like, who cares? That 12 months where Survivor Series is going to be next year. Who's like really like, I wish Survivor Series wasn't coming to an end because it's a full year before Survivor Series again. Like,
I love Survivor Series.
When Survivor Series, when the credit comes up on Survivor Series, are you sad a little bit because it's now 12 months until you get to see Survivor Series again?
No, because I got wrestled the next day.
That's what I mean. So when Survivor Series was telling us next year was going to be in LA, and I think a couple years ago it said it was going to be in Houston like a year later.
I will say this. On a previous show, if we go back to our archives, I think I ranked the 4.
And you put Survivor Series very high.
No. I put Survivor Series ahead of SummerSlam. I remember that. I said SummerSlam was the 4th.
I believe you did.
I don't think, to me, I think I put SummerSlam 4. I put Survivor Series 3, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania.
So Raw and SmackDown next week are going to emanate from the newly named, it's been for about 2 months now, Scotiabank Arena. And that doesn't sound familiar. It's the former Air Canada Center in Toronto.
Yep.
There is rumors that they are going to announce that SummerSlam next year is going to be at Rogers Center in Toronto Stadium, with Raw and SmackDown being at the arena the next night.
Jared will be at all shows because
I will be at least SummerSlam. I don't know if I'll be at all the shows.
Jared loves Toronto, eh?
So I will be at SummerSlam for sure if it's at Rogers Center. But
you're definitely going.
But without a doubt, well, you're definitely going for a couple reasons, and that's tickets will be readily available. It's when stadiums are bigger, there's more tickets to be had.
Yeah, there's more tickets to be had, and hopefully the prices aren't too bad.
The prices are much lower because upper deck at a stadium is much further than upper deck, at an arena.
Plus, it's
So I can get in for $30.
Plus, it's like it's a home away for home for you. So that's that's awesome.
I'll be happy with it. But I like the treatment, regardless of being Toronto. I like that treatment of stadium.
Yeah,
now I don't.
agree.
Now I don't want it to see it in a stadium like WrestleMania because of the fact that WrestleMania still is a bigger event. I like the baseball stadium idea.
Yeah, I would.
Because baseball stadium are a little bit smaller, like outdoors in Pittsburgh. That would be really cool. That place holds about 30,000.
What, PNC?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be that. I've never been to PNC Park for a ball game, but from every baseball fan that I've ever talked to that's been to that ballpark, they say it's a gem. It's one of the best.
I've been there. It's my favorite ballpark.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard it's usually in people's top 3.
And it's about 35,000. The problem with SummerSlam and baseball stadiums though is the seasons conflict. So that's the only problem there. But I like the idea. I was even thinking if they go back to LA, trying for that StubHub Center, I think it's called, where the Chargers and the Rams currently play,
Yeah,
but they're not.
that's a perfect spot because it's not a big stadium.
It's like 30,000.
Yeah, it was the running joke, like, oh, you're gonna have an NFL team at a stadium that holds like 29,000 people or 39,000.
So that'd be perfect.
Small.
Summer. I mean, the summer weather, Southern California, but bigger than Staples Center, outdoors. I mean, change it up. Then all of a sudden, it gets that second biggest pay-per-view feel.
Yeah, they gotta change the aesthetics. They really got to change the aesthetics of the whole show. To me, once again, I'll harp on it. It just reminded me of another pay-per-view. If they want to make SummerSlam the number 2 show or even top 4 show of the year, you got to give it a little more treatment.
And I will say this much, and I'm not the biggest New York City person. I'm pretty New York City centric. I know my way around. And I will say this: WWE, no matter how hard you try to make Barclays Center like the new Madison Square Garden, it's not. Barclays Center is, to me, no different than the Prudential Center in Newark or the arena where Evolution's going to be on Long Island. It's not Madison Square Garden. It's one of the other New York City arenas.
Yeah, it's just not. Yeah, I was going to say it's not. Yeah, MSG is MSG.
So if you're going to have SummerSlam or a big pay-per-view at Madison Square Garden, that can substitute for a stadium. Like I remember when WrestleMania used to be at stadium, but then was at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Before going back to stadium, that can substitute because Madison Square Garden is that big of a deal.
You know what you could do?
But Barclays Center doesn't substitute.
You know what also is a big arena? It's an arena, not a stadium. Is where the Bulls play. United Center.
Yeah.
That's what does that hold? Like over
23.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's over 20,000. That's enough. That's enough to hold, and it makes it a big event. That's one of the arenas.
Again, you got to treat it differently. Even when WrestleMania was in Chicago, WrestleMania 22, I want to say. I mean, you had a different entranceway. That's the big key. Stadium or arena. I mean, you can't just put up the Raw Titantron and
No, you got to make it nice.
You got to make it feel like it's something different.
Absolutely.
That's probably the biggest takeaway from all of this is regardless stadium, arena, you got to make it feel different. Rogers Center, obviously, it'll feel different regardless if you put the Raw Titantron up there because of the fact that it's a big stadium. But, even if you're just going to go to another arena, even if you're going to go back to LA and go to Staples Center, make it feel different. But outdoors in SummerSlam, that's a big start because summer is nice. So you can go outdoors anywhere. Like you can go outdoors in Pittsburgh. You can go outdoors in Chicago. That's a big start. I think SummerSlam outdoors would be a big one. That's a big move in the right direction in making SummerSlam more popular. But right now, 90% agree it's Royal Rumble. That's the second most important pay-per-view of the WWE calendar year. So with that, we move on to our Twitter, tweet, Instagram. I say Instagram because I have an Instagram post. What is your tweet of the week?
All right, nothing fancy. I mean, I know we had the SummerSlam, pay-per-view. It was a big week. So it was kind of funny. Me and Paul were sitting there watching the show on Sunday. And I have to tell you, I was looking forward to how they show all the broadcasters from like all the different countries that like translate and stuff for their nations. My favorite guys are Meng Ai and Shang Deng. So me and Paul we're like, man, they got golden names. So somebody else, this is what I said. Me and Paul were like, they should have their own show, the Meng and Deng Connection. I just thought it was him, and I just got a kick out of it. So, a nice Twitter follower, Rafi at Rafi004 says "mang and dang" with the laughing, the crying emoji, like laughing my ass off emoji. Hashtag SummerSlam. Like, I'd love to get Mang and Dang on the show. Those guys are awesome. Every time I see them, I think that I just got a kick out of it. I'm like, dude, Mang and Dang, how do they not have their own podcast? They need to have their own podcast. Like, when you have names like Mang and Dang, that is like Paul and I got a kick out of it. So it was kind of it was a tough week, but I thought you'd enjoy that a little bit. You know, knowing who you've seen enough pay-per-views, you've seen those guys, Mang and Dang.
I can't. I
don't know why
point
I
them out
that.
amongst all. I know they're not the German announce team. I feel like we see the German announce team a lot.
Yeah, the Spanish and Germans are the two popular ones.
I feel like I see
because you see Carlos Cabrera there a lot, and then I forget the guys in the German team, but only for the.
I
big
don't remember
events.
any of those other names.
Mang,
other than
Mang and
Funaki.
Dang, I love it.
I remember Funaki.
Yes, well, Funaki with the thumbs up. You know,
Yeah.
I love Funaki. He's good too. But I just thought it was funny. You know, being in the the broadcast world. I was like, why in the hell are they not? WWE needs to come up with like a show on the network, the Mang and Dang connection or something. That would just be cool.
Now, I don't get the quote. I think this is probably something. If you know what it is, send it out here. But last night, we're recording this on a Thursday, it was Pro Wrestling Night with an appearance by Mick Foley at the Rochester Red Wings in Rochester, New York, which is about an hour and a half from where we're recording right now in Syracuse. And in place of some of the players on the team, they put up graphics of wrestlers. So in Rochester, how could you have a wrestling night without a graphic of your own hometown boy, Luke Harper? And they did put up Eric Rowan as well, but Luke Harper was on there, and he made sure to post it on his own Instagram account that he was made aware that his face was on Frontier Field. And, well, he made sure to post it because he's probably seen and wrestled many times at Frontier Field when they used to do those ballpark brawls and other indie shows that would come through Rochester. I remember setting up a ring with Luke Harper in Rochester, New York, many ions ago. So the quote is Larry. He says this a lot. I don't know why that's his big thing on Twitter and Instagram. Larry knew a guy who had a torn bicep but could still rake. Me, on the other hand, had another bad night, not my week. I think he might be referring to Rowan, as we were talking earlier about Rowan having a torn bicep.
Yes.
But the fact that the picture of Rowan and the baseball player that he was with, which it looks like he was Brandon Phillips. They were playing Pawtucket.
Yeah, it looks
so.
like,
I'm thinking he was in place of Brandon Phillips. And two-run homer and a single to right for Brandon Phillips.
Yes.
So with the picture instead of Brandon Phillips of Eric Rowan.
Pretty cool.
So I think he was mentioning that Eric Rowan got a 2-run home run and a single to right. So even with a torn bicep, he could still rake.
Props to Eric Rowan.
On the other hand, had a bad night and because the guy he's with grounded to short and struck out looking. So I think now that I'm reading the quote, I don't need your help at home, folks. I think I figured it out.
I think as you're reading it, I think you figured it out.
I think I figured it out.
Yeah, Eric Rowan, well done, great job. 2-run homer with a torn bicep. Good for you, my friend.
So I'm assuming that then Luke Harper and Eric Rowan were used as the bad guys for the images. So they probably had the Red Wings themselves, and then the bad guys might have been heel wrestlers. Because obviously Pawtucket would be the bad guys in Rochester. So the opponents were the Pawtucket Red Sox, essentially, were Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. But it's cool to see Luke Harper on a video board, and it's cool to see Luke Harper obviously acknowledge that because, well, that is his home, Rochester, New York. That is where he's from, and that's where he got his start.
Yeah.
So that is my Instagram post of the week, and that's going to do it for our social media Smackdown of the week. So for Brandon the Icebreaker Clement, you can follow him on Twitter at Icebreaker21.
Great show this week, by the way.
Myself, Jared, just Jared Wicks. That's where you can follow me on Twitter and follow the program at Heel to the Face. And if you're watching, subscribe to us on YouTube.
See ya.